My name is Kayla Foster, and I'll be interviewing Sarah Alexander about the story of her and Daniel McAnally. My first question for you is, in your earlier years of life, what was your outlook on love?
I thought it was a joke. I always joked around that I would never find love, that I would be alone. I didn't want any part of it. I was very independent and didn't want anybody telling me what to do or having to make compromises or anything of the sort.
Okay. How did you meet Daniel?
I met Daniel through a friend from high school. We decided to take a weekend trip and went down to her house where she was going to college. And we just kind of hung out around the house and went shopping and stuff. And he was really nice and he was funny and he was cute, but I never would have dated him. He was a ladies' man and he sure made himself out to that. He was funny and I liked being around him and stuff, but there was no way that I ever thought about dating him.
So, how long was it before you seen him again?
I didn't see him again until everything happened. I saw him again 6 years down the road after we started writing to each other, and he sent me a form to be approved to go visit him while he was in prison.
Well, how did it come about that y'all were starting to write each other? Like, how
We
did
became
that happen?
we became friends on Facebook, and I saw that his mother posted that he needed friends to write him. I had already been writing a guy that was in prison. My best friend's brother was in prison, and him and his friends wanted something to help pass the time, so I had plenty of spare time living in Mountain View working at a daycare, so I decided I'd write him. Well, when I saw that Facebook post, I decided to write him because at least I knew him and it wasn't a stranger that I was writing. So I wrote him a letter, and then about 2 weeks later, not it wasn't 2 weeks. It was just a couple days later. I got a response, maybe about a week, and then from then we just kept writing back and forth.
So tell me about your first letter to him. Were you scared writing him at all, or?
Well, I wasn't scared when I started writing him. Honestly, I didn't even think that he would remember me after 5 or 6 years of not talking. But I just thought, hey, I'll be a friend. If he needs somebody to talk to, then that's all I was looking for, was just, if he needs a friend, he can talk to me. What else do I have to do? So I just wrote a little tiny piece of paper. It wasn't even a standard piece of paper. It was just like a little note piece of paper. And that's what started everything.
Tell me about his first letter to you. How did it make you feel?
The first letter to me, he told me what he was looking for. He said that he remembered me, and he went on about how I was a good person, and it seems like I'd been doing well for myself, going to school and working and trying to get everything situated and getting ready to go back to school to finish up my degree. And when I got that first letter, he was telling me that he wanted to really get to know somebody that was really going to write him and be there for him, and that made me feel really good, so I wrote him back instantly.
And how long did this go on?
The letter writing went on. He was in prison from the time I started writing him until 6 months later, and we wrote even more often after the first month. It was pretty much, we got 2 or 3 letters a week from each other.
So, you're not a judgmental person at all, because he's obviously in prison.
Yes.
So, did you ever go visit him in prison?
I did go visit him. The first letter I wrote Thanksgiving of 2011. And by January, he already told me he loved me, and I thought he was kind of crazy. But it was sweet and it was flattering. So finally, about February, he sent me a visitation form and I filled it out, and I went to visit him March 4th of 2012.
How did that visit make you feel? Were you scared? Were you worried that when he seen you it would be different? Or you how did you feel?
Well, going by myself to a prison was very intimidating. The entire week beforehand, I was completely nervous. He actually called me at one point, and when I saw the number was from Pine Bluff, I freaked out. I was too scared to even answer the phone. So then he called his mom and made her call me and say that Daniel was trying to get a hold of me to answer the phone. So finally, I answered the phone and talked to him for the first time in 6 years. And it was weird hearing his voice because I hadn't heard it in so long. But then I finally went there, and I had to take my shoes off so they could search them and walk through a metal detector and get pat down. And they even scanned my thumbprint so I could go to visit him. And after that first visit, I knew that he was what I wanted.
When did you know that you was actually in love with him?
At the visit, we did share a kiss, and I think that was when I knew. Even though I didn't want to admit it to myself, I really didn't want to admit it to him, but that's when I knew.
Did you continue writing after this? How were the letters after y'all visited?
After the visit, they still continue the same. We talked about our days and what was going on and how we were getting ready to adjust to everything that was about to change with him being released, and I was moving to Jonesboro to go back to school. And personally, between us, they got even mushier. More savvy.
Have you always been a sappy person?
No, I am so not a sappy person. Used to, when I would watch romantic comedies and stuff, when people were kissing or being sweet to each other, I'd make a gagging noise and stick my finger down my throat.
As Sarah's best friend, I can vouch for that. Can you tell me, did y'all plan to move in together after that, or did he plan to come to Jonesboro with you?
He was paroling out to his grandparents' house, who live in Truman, which is only about 15 minutes from Jonesboro. So the plan was he was going to go there and I'd go visit him when I got the chance. But it didn't work out that way.
Well, how did it work out?
He spent maybe 2 nights at his grandparents' house, and the rest of it he stayed with me in my dorm.
And how was that?
It was nice. It was really nice. I mean, we didn't plan for it to work that way. That's just how it worked out because we wanted to be around each other all the time.
Tell me about that first week that he was home.
First week he was home, when I went, the call that I got to go pick him up, I was at a gas station with 2 friends. I was taking them home, and I was just so excited. I couldn't even sleep. I probably slept 2 hours that night, and then the rest of the time I sat on the stairwell outside of my dorm just waiting for the time to go by so I could go get him. And then I went to pick him up, and we spent the weekend in Mountain View so we could visit his mother and grandmother that live there. And then we drove to Truman Sunday. But that whole week, I had classes, so I went to class, and then I'd go and we'd spend time with his grandparents, and I got to meet them and his cousins. It was kind of crazy meeting all of his family in 1 week.
Tell me about that. I want to hear about that a little bit more.
His grandpa was a mess. And his cousins, you know, they, like I said before, when I first met him, he was a ladies' man. So they were just kind of shrugging it off as, oh, it's just another girl Daniel brought home. But they were all nice to me and joked around, and that was that.
Who was your favorite family member that you met?
Papa is definitely the biggest character.
Did he get to meet your family that week in Mountain View?
I think he briefly met my dad, but we didn't get to spend much time there, so he could actually spend time with his family that he hadn't seen in 2 years or spent more than 3-4 hours with them at a time.
I think this concludes our interview. Thank you very much for your time and cooperation.
Thank you.